What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. I'm Brian London. Follow me on X at Miami Radio Beast. He is Brandon O'Doy. Follow him at Brandon_O'Doy. And Brandon, we've not talked publicly since the University of Miami lost their first game of the season against Georgia Tech. So before we get to other things going on in Canes world, let's get into that. What were your thoughts after Miami lost that game in that way to that team in Atlanta?
Well, I thought that, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I was like everybody else. I thought, Cam Ward magic is coming. I think, especially when Miami got the ball late, I felt like, this is a situation where they're going to come back and do what it looks like they can't do. But I was texting you like during the game, like this feels like a loss. Like this feels like they've got Miami figured out. I think the scheme, you got to give Georgia Tech a ton of credit, man.
For sure.
Listen, if that running back doesn't go down, and if Haynes King, and we've seen Haynes King be healthy and be good. If Haynes King is healthy and that running back Jamal Haynes is healthy, like, that could have got nasty because you basically didn't have a passing version of Haynes, and he's good passing. We saw it last year.
Yeah.
He went right down the field with under 2 minutes to go. So you basically had a one-dimensional guy and his best running back gone and playing somewhat of a backup, and they were able to beat the number 4 team in the country. And so there's just a lot to think about during the bye week. But I'm actually glad, me personally, for someone who covers the team and then someone who's kind of been invested in this, I'm kind of glad they got that loss out of the way because, they were just teaming and tempting fate so much that to live on the edge like that and then get to the playoff and lay an egg would have hurt a little bit more, So it's kind of like you got it out of the way. You're not perfect. You don't walk on water. Cam Ward can be regular. He can, he is a human being.
And he didn't have a bad game. He had a fine game.
He had a fine game.
It wasn't great, but it was fine.
There were some inefficiencies, but what they did, and this is going to be the copycat, that this is going to be the thing you see moving forward. They're going to limit opportunities.
Right.
They're going to say, you know what? We don't trust that this guy's not going to be a hero. We're going to run. They're doing this in the first half. They're letting the clock go to like 10 to snap. Like I felt like we played Army or Navy.
Yeah, they had a 10-minute drive.
Listen, I saw that happen in high school football last year. There was a team called Berkeley Prep. They beat a juggernaut Miami New Orleans team. This team sent like 12 kids to D1. Like, it was crazy. Some insane number. They slowed the ball down. They ran the same type of offense. They hiked the ball with 5 seconds. Like, they just kept a prolific offense on the bench, and they made the defense tackle for 4 quarters. They won the game. Almost, the scores were almost identical. Like, I've seen that game before, and you're gonna see it again. Miami has to figure some things out because you're gonna see that game plan again.
Well, let's talk about that. The defense.
And you don't want to see it with Rhett Lashley. Rhett Lashley could copycat this.
Yeah,
he's good enough. And that's probably for later on in the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Rhett Lashley was given a freaking playbook. That's not what you want to see.
Yeah, no, I tweeted that out during the game on Saturday. Like, Rhett Lashley licking his chops watching this game.
But it's not just him. And can we talk about this for just a brief second? I don't want to spoil segments you may have planned.
Yeah.
It's not just Rhett. It's all the former Canes.
Of course. Rashad Smith. It's all these guys. Yeah.
Force it down. Not just University of Miami, but there's got to be some with the coach.
Of course. All right. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but I got to ask you about the defense because there's injuries on the back end.
Ask me?
I don't know. Is there hope? I don't
know.
I don't.
Don't ask me about the defense. I have no idea.
I don't listen. I'm not into calling out coaches and coordinators and this and that.
But there's no call out. It's ineffective.
Right.
You don't even have to use you don't have to exaggerate anything. It's not working. It has to be fixed. It's just that simple. We don't have to talk about anything else. What's working? Nothing. What's not working? Everything. Done. Okay, let's fix it. That's all we have to say about the defense. There's not even like a bright spot where like, oh man, a certain position group is playing like really, really well. Not really.
Well, I
Oh,
would
so and
say
so is having like an
I,
amazing season.
I would no. Well,
Not really.
I would say the front four is the best of the bunch. If you had to, even say, but even that, I think they're underperforming.
There wasn't an edge set for 4 quarters.
Yeah,
Like
no, I agree. I agree.
you mean in other games? You're not talking.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
Oh,
the season overall. I would say the front four is the best
yeah.
of
If
the
you
bunch. If you have to,
yeah,
if you had to
with
do
the
that,
backers being a fairly close second. Yes.
and then the back end is just it. I mean, it's just not.
I don't speak on.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this. You know, we saw them, put in Zaquan Patterson and younger guys and try to, do something there. Listen, as good as those guys are, they're still freshmen. So, they're going to make
Frederick's a
mistakes.
dude. I will say that. I'll take
No,
that.
no.
Frederick
No,
is having
yeah,
the season.
you're right. You know what? We forgot
He
about
is
him.
a dude. He's probably
he's the shining star.
the best thing going on.
Especially since you didn't anticipate it. Like, I didn't hear anyone in the offseason being like, oh, OJ is gonna be the shining star on defense this year.
You know the thing about OJ that kind of is weird. It kind of makes you, because I watched him play as a youth. Didn't really hone in because he played on a team with Jeremiah Smith, Josiah
Of
Trader,
course, yeah,
Chance Robinson, like Davion Goss, CJ Bailey. Like, I mean, Vincent Shavers. Like, there were just too many good players, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, how did I miss this kid? Even at St. Thomas, like, I never saw. Now he's put on a nice lot of weight. Like,
yeah.
he's been in the gym doing some development, but I never saw this coming. And there were other people who were like, bro, OJ. Because I remember getting him and thinking, like, I guess to get the other St. Thomas kids, you have to take him. Like, I never said that out loud, but it's like, boy, thank God we got him. He's the best of the bunch so far. Like, I mean, yeah, Lyle showed some flashes. We haven't heard from him in a while. And, Robinson and Mac have some issues as far as injuries are concerned. So we'll hear from them later on in their careers. But, like, gee whiz, it feels like you kind of robbed a bank. Like, that dude's a stud. He was only a 3-star. Can you imagine?
I mean, but again, that goes to show you just about the question marks with the whole rating system and all of that stuff. You just don't know.
So here's the deal. Whatever he wants in the NIL, pay it fast and take it. Pay it immediately, because I remember, the Kobe Young came thing and everybody's freaking out. Oh, we should have paid Kobe. That was a good decision. That looks good right now. He's persona non grata over at University of Georgia. But I'm going to come out and say, OJ Frederick, man, whatever he asks for, make sure he gets it. You do not. And can you imagine next year how nice it's going to be to have a healthy Brown and Frederick on one side and Jadaeus Richards and like that secondary? It's going to go from being like, to like,
well, I think that there's got to be some off-season,
one or two pieces,
imports,
but they got some dudes. You don't need much. You don't over recruit, because you got some true freshmen that are going to come in. Drake Stubbs,
right?
From Mandarin, you're going to get some dudes in. And if they pull the DJ kid, the Pickett kid, Booker Pickett, his cousin's on the team. I mean, you might be all right. You might not have to tap in at all. I think Miami is very, like, we went portal heavy as far as like all the things you see. I think they're going to be pieces. They'll go get a quarterback for sure for insurance on Emory. And then you're going to see pieces in the secondary. You're not going to see mass like 4 or 5 D linemen like you saw this year. You're not going to see all that because you've got youth that you're developing.
Right. Well, Mario Cristobal talked about it for like the whole first month of the season, that basically we're not doing our job if we're not developing these young guys behind these older guys. Like
They're developing.
we got to get them ready. Yeah.
They're in practice. They're developing. Now they're, they're going to be a lot more, like 1 or 2 losses next year is going to be like the thing, but like it ain't going to be like a Cam Ward scenario, but like, yeah, they'll be probably a better team with regard to like original Hurricanes. It won't be all this like we got to run and grab the world to compete. And I think that's a credit to just how well they've recruited in the most recent classes.
Speaking of recruiting, I was going to bring this up next segment, but we're here now. We're recording this on Wednesday night on November 13th. Miami just flipped a kid from USC, the edge rusher, Hayden Lowe. I think he's like one of the top ends in the country, one of the top players in the country. He would be the highest rated player in the 2025 class, this kid out of California. So it's still flipping season. There's still things happening for Miami. And you listen, more than
he's a nightmare.
Yeah, without a doubt. But more than anybody about the way the staff recruits. Like they are just nonstop.
Their closers, a little bit earlier of a date this year. So being good helps Miami because they're literally 3 weekends away from signing day.
It's like December 4th or something like that.
Yeah, there's this weekend, which is good because Miami has a bye. They can bring people in and they don't have to worry about preparing for a team. And then they have a weak team next week, which is Wake Forest, and they get them at home. So like this is a super huge advantage. So you can bring guys in on a final visit at Wake Forest, right? You've got Syracuse weekend away. You take care of business, and then you get signing day the week after that. So it's like, yeah, stuff's about to wrap up here, with this early signing day, and then the portal opens, and then all hell breaks loose.
Right, and then you and I start scratching our heads.
No, I'm telling you what it is. It's going to be a quarterback. It's going to be maybe a tight end if there's someone like that around, but there won't be a ton of money spent because you got guys that you need to be like getting involved because Lofton's going to have to be a bigger version of himself next year. Williams comes back. You lose the 9th-year kid and you lose Arroyo to the draft. And then you're good at running back. You may take some depth, but you're good there because you'll bring back Fletcher. You'll bring back Lyle, you'll bring back
CJ.
You'll bring back CJ, and you'll bring back Chris Wheatley Humphrey, who you haven't heard from. Jai Allen, AJ Allen will go to the portal.
Yeah.
But and then at receiver, if you keep Horton, the freshman, you'll lose George, you'll lose Restrepo, you'll lose
Brown.
Well, I heard he had a year left. I think he might have one left.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not sure if he does have another year.
Well, we'll see what kind of advice he gets on going to the next level.
Probably go, but if he doesn't, and then so I think you may bring in one. You'll probably lose Ray to the portal. And I think you'll bring one guy there, maybe, and then depending though, because if you get a freshman like a Brown that's committed to Florida or Jamie French, you might be more interested in just letting your young talent play. And then I think, D-line, you're going to have to replace, some positions in the middle though, not on the edge. You're fine.
Right.
And then Kiko, I think is done. And I think you look good on the offensive line. You got to go get a center because now this is every year you got to go find a center.
I think they're going to tell you that they
Matt
could move.
McCoy.
They can move someone over.
Like that. I didn't like that McCoy thing during the bowl. I didn't like that whole thing. But like I like everything else. You're gonna lose Rivers.
Right.
CC's got one more year. This JUCO kid's the real deal. This Markel kid, he's a freak. And I don't know if
I don't know about Cooper.
Yeah, I think he might be done. He's been around a while. But then there's, you've been, kind of recruiting pretty well. The back end, you're probably going to want to go get a safety. and you'll probably want to get like one corner. So you don't have to shop too much. And then the thing is, you got money. You'll be coming back possibly with a playoff berth, possibly with an ACC championship. In wild dreams, maybe a natty or a natty appearance. It ain't going to be hard. You're good to go. You just got to refocus after this loss. I saw it on Twitter and I thought that's a pretty good description. Miami's been playing with their food for just too long, and it finally caught up with them. Like their mom just finally said, "Hey, enough. You're in trouble." And so there's no reason to panic. Cam Ward, we knew he wasn't going to be perfect, and he had probably his most frustrating game. He was schemed against. Like I said, give Georgia Tech credit. Coach Buster, we talked to him at Hotbed when we visited Georgia Tech. I mean, this guy's a high school coach, has a lot of experience. He schemed. Boy, did he scheme that thing up.
No, they have a good staff, man. They have a good staff up there.
He schemed that up. And then Brent Key.
Yeah.
He's such a O-line guru, nasty, old school. Like, I ain't going to crack a smile. Like, blue collar, wearing a hoodie to the,
Yeah.
And he got away with 2 wins. I know that ain't going to sit well with Mario. They'll probably get 50 points put on them next year. But, at the end of the day, it's back to the basics. I don't think there are any doom or gloom. I didn't see any of that on Twitter. Did you? I just think people are like, yeah, that's a loss. We'll get back.
Well, I think there were people,
which is rare. I think
there were people that were, people were saying, listen, we'll be okay. We'll get to the ACC championship game. We'll deal with, it there. But I think there were people that were pretty upset about the fact that, listen, you knew what Georgia Tech was going to do, right? When King was in there, they were going to run the ball. He couldn't throw. When the other kid was in there, they were going to take a chance to maybe throw the football. You basically knew what they were going to do, and you could not stop it. I think people were pretty upset at that. But
yeah, I mean, it's hard not to look at coaching for that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about football. It didn't look good, but we'll see. I think people will forget about this if you win the last 2 games and make the ACC. I think if you fumble at any point between now and then and you don't make the ACC,
oh yeah,
then this is going to get magnified and jobs are going to be called for sure.
All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, the new playoff rankings are out, and a pretty cool thing that Cam Ward did that just popped up on the social media. We'll talk about that and more on the other side. It is the Real Ones Games podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Games podcast. He is Brandon O'Doy. Follow him on X, Brandon_O'Doy. I'm Brian the Beast London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Brandon, in the latest playoff rankings, Miami comes out number 11.
Are they 11 or 9? I thought
were they 9? They could have been 9.
Yeah, they were 11 in the AP.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, my bad. 11 in the AP, 9 in the playoff rankings, which was higher than where I thought they were going to be. So, if that being said, they still have everything that they're looking for ahead of them. Granted, they may not get that first round bye, what have you, if they're not one of the top 4, that sort of thing, but still have everything. All of their goals are still ahead of them. The thing that I'm worried about is, what we talked about a little bit, which is you get to the ACC championship game against Rhett Lashley and you lose one there. I don't know if you have enough strength of schedule to stay in the playoff.
No, but Rhett's got to get there himself.
Correct.
I wouldn't write him into that game any more than I would write Miami into it. Miami's got to clear the table at home against Wake Forest. I'm not concerned about. More concerned about post-Thanksgiving at Syracuse. That game to me is going to show just how far this Miami Hurricane program has come. And it's not such a difficult game per se, but it's a game where there's a lot on the line. It's away. It's in the cold, but it's not because you're in a dome. You've got a capable staff. You've got a capable offense, and so you do have to show up against Syracuse. That game can get tricky. Funny things go on there. They beat Georgia Tech when they were at full strength. So they're going to come in with a little bit more confidence than usual. And they have a lot to play for too, because If I'm not mistaken, they've only lost 2 games. So, that's a situation where
Syracuse, you're talking about?
yeah, 2 or 3. It can't
Yeah,
be
yeah,
more than 3.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, yeah, that's a game that still has to be considered. It really does. You can't just shoo that game along. And I think if they clear that and get to the ACC, I like their chances because even though, and everybody's saying red, and I'm trying to pull up the SMU schedule because,
I got it in front
they're
of me. They have 3
undefeated.
games left. Yeah, they play Boston College this weekend. Then they play Virginia at Virginia. That could
Yeah,
be tough.
the
And,
schedule looks favorable, but
and
these
then
are
they host
all
Cal. Yeah.
upset-minded type teams. Virginia just knocked somebody off that they weren't expected to beat last week. Boston College, we've seen what they've done to Florida State, and Cal, my good friend Fernando Mendoza, is still taking snaps there, and they're starting to kind of figure a few things out too. So it ain't gonna be easy because Miami only has 2 games left. They've got 3, and they got to win every single one of them. Because now when they lose, then they open up all kinds of scenarios. Miami controls its own destiny. And, so they're definitely going to be favored in all of these games. But there are going to be some tricky games. And then, they got to go on the road to Charlottesville. They get the other 2 at home. So it's favorable, but it ain't a write-in.
So we talked about the schedules, and we talked about the way the playoff is shaping up. I think it'd be great for Miami to get to the playoff. I think it would help in so many ways, whether it be in recruiting,
at this point they have to,
fundraising, all that stuff. And you're right, when you start off the season winning 9 in a row,
the
expectations go up. Although listen, if we go back to the beginning of the season, if I said, hey, they're going to finish the year 11-1 or 10-2, you'd be like, yeah, I'll take it.
Well, see, this is the thing, and I don't know if you noticed this, but this is what I took from it. When Rhett Lashley started making all those comments about the strength of the league and all that other stuff, to me, he was hedging on losing to Miami in the ACC championship and still being able to get into the playoff. Like, that's what that conversation is. You don't see Mario doing that. Like, he's not sitting up here saying, hey, if we lose another game, we should be in. Nah, because a two-loss ACC champion, non-champion ain't getting in. It ain't gonna happen. They're gonna find a way to put these SEC teams in, even though the SEC is literally chewing each other up. But I think at the end of the day, the ACC, the best scenario would have been for Clemson and Miami to go undefeated because they don't play each other, and then have 2 undefeated teams play in the championship, and the loser still gets in. That's not happening, okay? Because I don't think Clemson is as strong as people previously saw. And their 1 losses to Georgia, which is now Georgia could take a 3rd loss. So I just think that the ACC is going to be a one and done type league, and potentially the Big 12 is too, because there's just too much other stuff that's going right out there. And one of those stories is Army and Boise State. Army's undefeated, and if they take down, if they win the game this weekend, that changes a lot of stuff. So, at the end of the day, as it concerns Miami, you like that they have, things under their control, and then you gotta like the fact that they don't play this weekend. They cannot lose a game this weekend.
I love
it. And it's like the second bye, which is, I think we should have 2 byes every year. This bye stuff is great. This second bye is a gift from God because you can't lose 2 in a row, because that would sink everything, And so having a chance, especially with the way the defense played, having a chance to figure things out and call for help, because you didn't ask me this question. I thought you would. I was trying to prepare for it all week, which was, Brandon, what does Lance Guidry do? And I think that if you get to where he is in his career, you've got to have mentors. You've got to have guys that have guided you along the way at some point. Like, I had to ask myself, if I had like a spiritual question I couldn't answer, or if I had like, something going on in the school, or, something in the media world, I'd have to go to mentors, people who've kind of been there, done that, who have that like OG advanced level of like sensei type, ranking and pick their brains and say, hey, look, you know what I mean? I'm in a tight spot here. What do I do? And he can't change the entire defense. He can't change his personnel. There are limitations to what can take place. And he needs somebody who understands what he's dealing with and to give him some, some pointers or whatever, because he may be at a point where he's scratching his head like, hey, man, I really don't know what to do here. And at the end of the day, I think if he's gotten to this point, there's got to be a few people he can call. And I think those people are going to hear from him this week.
Yeah, one would hope. Last thing before we get out of here, pretty cool thing happened. I don't know if you saw it because you've been busy, but on social media, again, we're taping this Wednesday night, just breaking about an hour ago, Cam Ward took all the offensive linemen out for a big time fancy dinner and gifted them what looked like necklaces with diamonds on them. I couldn't tell what the stones were, but it basically has, I think it has like an ibis and their number. Gave them each a necklace, and those boys were very appreciative of the gesture by Cam. Very cool thing for him to do. Great time of the year to do that. I'm sure he's done a bunch of other things. Again, just another story about how he is a mature leader on this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's a truly altruistic guy when it comes to, giving and, appreciating his teammates. And I think it's going to go a long way. They've done a fairly good job taking care of him this year. He hasn't been sacked a ton. At the end of the day, when you're making the kind of money he's making, it kind of clears the air that he's like, hey, I ain't just going to pocket all this stuff. I'm going to take care and look out for my guys. You see it done in the NFL. He's a leader's leader. And he's the reason I think Miami has the ability to get things done, at these levels. There's no way I'm talking about, ACC championship and potential playoff berths if Cam Ward's not on this team. It's just not possible.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Difference maker. And you saw it. He didn't have his best game. He wasn't able to pull off the impossible, and Miami struggled, and they were right there. And again, I'm shocked because you didn't ask me a tough question, which is, should, instead of going for it on fourth down, Miami have taken probably a Rosa kicker?
Yeah.
Should they have taken those?
Yeah, they should have taken the points. If they kick 2 field goals, they win the game.
So I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people really talking about that, but Andres Borregales is having the year.
Well, there's one thing for sure. On the 1 4th down where they try to get cute and run some weird passing play, just Martinez, just give him the ball. He'll get you 3 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to second guess any play calls. If you feel like, listen, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I'm sure Cam Ward was like, man, we need to go. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah, no doubt.
And I think all of that's a part of it too. I mean, because they've been pretty good on 4th down all year, It ain't like they missed very many of them. So I think this is just a perfect storm. Glad that game is over, and hopefully you don't see anything resembling that moving forward. But, there are going to have to be some changes on defense. And, it looks like Cam Ward's a great teammate, giving away, the very nice, expensive headphones and chains. Kids are going to think back on those, for years to come, especially if this ends up being a pretty special season for the Canes, which so far it kind of looks like it might be.
Yeah, we hope so. All right, that'll do it for us this week. Bye week this week, so we won't have a post-game recap. We will join you before Miami takes on Wake Forest. Hopefully it's not a sleepy nooner at Hard Rock.
It is.
Yeah, well, hopefully it is a nooner, but hopefully it's not a sleepy nooner. Yeah. No, it's a noon game, but hopefully it's not sleepy. We will see. Get your butts to the game, huh? It's the last home game. It's senior day.
Senior day for Cam Ward.
Yeah.
To be there.
Exactly. Get your butts out to the game. So we will talk to you next week. We will see you right here on the Real Ones Canes podcast.